Ebo linjani mahlabe Zulu. Almost all human beings who have ever lived and have passed through the earth never realized that they were born as engineers. The term engineer comes from the Latin word ingenium, meaning cleverness, or one who is skillful as a contriver and originator of something. While there is no single Afro-Kamitic word that can etymologically parallel the word engineer, the concept and its ancestry is richer. The ancient African engineer would have been one who understood the human vessel as a ziwa or ulwaz, or the pot of knowledge, and also with the ability to command with an authoritative speech any magical force or haka to form reality, and at the same time maintain Mahatic cosmic environment. What are the proofs that you can give to anybody that we are all born as engineers? We offer three such proofs: the evidence of disparity, the why, the evidence of systematic suppression, and the evidence of self-correction. In other words, the evidence of disparity is the proof that we are born as engineers, found in the gap between our potential and our reality. Look at the evidence. We live in the most advanced era of history, yet we stand before the monuments of the past, the pyramids, the monoliths, the walls of Benin, like little children staring at a math problem which they cannot solve. If we are merely passive observers, this disparity wouldn't be so glaring. But we know we have the capacity to build, yet we see our intent fragmented and our consciousness unengineered. When we look at the evidence of systematic suppression, we realize that we have fallen asleep because we have failed to craft reality which we want. This is not a biological defect. It is a learned limitation that has come through educational system, and it doesn't really fail us, but it actively suppresses our understanding and learning of the soul, and our consciousness continues unengineered. We are failing to live harmoniously on earth. We fall sick and we become depressed precisely because we have been disconnected from the replicable architecture of thought that made the ancient masters of their environment. The evidence of self-correction is very clear. The final proof about our own internal restlessness, the desires that we have, the wishes that we have, and you recognize the decay in our environment and our inability to change the global system to a very friendly one, is proof that the engineer within you is not dead, but is merely dormant, fast asleep, and we are born with a specific rigorous architecture of ability to collapse possibilities into the reality that we want. We have simply been tricked into becoming consumers of chaos, of Isfet, rather than architects of order and Mahat. So, when we look at the whole plethora of understanding that we have and the things that they've hidden from us, it is the secret of consciousness and the engineering that consciousness that has been hidden from us. Because we have to use the hardcore atheistic agnostic paradigm testing, where we know that the consciousness energy continuum is the singular axiomatic non-local infinite potential, all potential with all possibilities that covers everything, because we are actuators of the systems that we find within ourselves and outside of ourselves via our consciousness. We are engineering something daily through causality engineering. So the non-dual ontological spectrum, wherein consciousness is uncreated potential and energy is expressed frequency, are co-arising modalities of the same unknowable source. The continuum is not linear but toroidal. Observer intent collapses superpositional energy and it states into experiential reality. You really experience that, whether connived or put on place or in place or on you by politicians, by the matrix of economics or the matrix of race, gender, and anything else. The energetic feedback reinforms you as an observer in your frequency that you are creating a self-calibrating loop, whether anchored in Mahatic alignment or aesthetic alignment. That's your choice. But if you are not taught or told about that choice, you will never learn about it. So we are all engineers, But this has been hidden from us. The hidden blueprint is there. The reality is there. Consciousness, energy, frequency, time, matter. These are the tools that they hide from you. You were born an engineer and nobody has told you that. So how can we live as engineers? In other words, how can we wake up from the slumber that has been induced on us? Dedicate 1 or 2 hours daily to a singular analog and focus on a specific challenge, eliminating all digital screens to allow your neural networks to recombine patterns without interruption. So we need to look at this perhaps and introduce ourselves to the consciousness energy continuum thresholds and manifest coherence that we need. So where do we get the coherence? The coherence come only from ancestral coherence, because you didn't create yourself. So ancestral coherence is a persuasive framework that fuses ancient techniques with modern insights to turn intention into measurable outcomes. Practice libation daily, for instance, to align your body, lineage, and intent. Expect cumulative shifts in clarity, creative breakthroughs, and tangible opportunities through libation, because you are causality engineering when you do libation. Because libation is a physical pouring of water onto the earth. But when you do that, you declare your intent. And when you do the declaration, you are forcing the transition from wish to actuality by acting as a quantum actuator. You are actuating it and putting it into force. When you do that, you are already engaging in ancestral resonance grounding, which you must do before you begin your work. Spend a few minutes in silence and visualize your DNA as spiraling, linking to ancestral architects, chanting your totemic poetry, and this will tune your bioantenna bloodline, as well as isolate the unwanted ancestors or other spirits or other negativities, and you are earthing them into the ground, because you are performing libation barefooted, not wearing shoes or stiletto shoes, because there is no African who has no totem. There are no totemless Africans. Read our book. It will demonstrate to you that ancestral resonance will come because you know your totem. Once you know your totems, then your lineage becomes rooted in an alignment that is possible to the buffer civilization that our ancestors or your ancestors created. For us, it's Kemetic alignment. Kekule's hypnagogia and Tesla's intuitive download, Nikola Tesla, they used the same protocols. They reclaimed ancestral coherence as practical tools. We must accept that our ancestors invented a lot of tools and systems and civilizations, because when we do that, we are aligning ourselves to their engineering ability and capacities, and we are honoring and continuing with the benefits that they brought on the earth. When we ignore that ability and capacity, and when we say it is not them that created that, we are in misalignment and we have been duped and deceived. But you cannot continuously do this without measurable outcomes and seeing what's coming out. So you have to use the clay prototype iterative reality testing systems that Kunun used to create human beings, which you can mold. How do you do that? You move from thought to tangible action immediately by taking micro actions that embodies your intent by sketching, modeling, or prototyping. Then when you do that, you transition from a passive thinker to an active architect of causality. You now become an active engineer who has not fallen asleep. And then you track clear indicators, insights that are aligned to the opportunities and behavioral shifts that you have done for a period of, say, 27 days or 21 days or 30 days. You have to measure progress with a simple journal. You note that down with a calendar that is associated and aligned with you. And then you measure and celebrate small wins to reinforce the consciousness energy continuum realities. But at the same time, you have to mitigate against the weight of isfet and chaos, which we are constantly bombarded by. This external noise and environmental stressors like the toxic living situations or distractions we currently endure as a dissonance. If you do not do that, it will degrade your frequency. And once it degrades your frequency, it will stop you from becoming an engineer, and your ability is stymied and stifled, and you will never be able to do that. There is also another tactic of divining what you want to do. When you divine it, You have to vividly picture what you want. That is the seed, which we call the intent seed. Once you do that, you are already into applied metaphysics. So you write and ritualize it. Then perform a small act. Like, for instance, you can fold that paper in a shape that you want, and you can hold it. Or you can convert that vagueness into a high coherent signature. Act as if that has already manifested. Take daily micro actions and track results, as we have said before. Affirm that it's working, and do not just do it. So this intent compression demands deep work immersion. You must be in the intent. That's why our ancestors were able to act as if it has already manifested. And also, they had become causality engineers. That's the whole purpose. Almost every human being who has walked on the earth, either alive today or will come in the future or passed through the earth in the past, never realized that they were born as engineers. If they thought of that, they never actively, other than what we have seen our ancestors do, living as seer, Ohu, and Haka, and the pyramids. So we know that in the past they did. But modern people, when they think of an engineer, they are seeing a professional who applies mathematical and scientific principles to create, design, innovate, and solve practical problems. They are problem solvers, yes, but they are material problem solvers. They cannot solve problems with their key skills, like problem solving, critical thinking, technical knowledge, creativity, and leadership beyond the grave. They can't do that. They can end with their gadgets, which will remain on the earth, which benefits humanity. But what has he or she as an engineer benefited from that? That's what we are saying in this video. There is a lot of knowledge that you need to understand because of your biological birth. That you were born as a raw biomachine. You are born in the world that is evil, entropic nature or nurture, with a default ego that has been identified by our ancestors as the car. You need it, but you have to balance it and require active mastery over it so that it can allow your consciousness to expand more and more awareness and withstand the infinity pressures that pushes you down into entropy. And once you do that, you are calibrating your consciousness, and you are a wave collapser, and you are engaged in what we know as causality engineering, where your memory enhancing features, totems, past activities, your ancestry, your bloodline, even your skills, current physical skills, will become handy to give you that inertia as well as escape velocity that you need to escape from this cosmos. In conclusion, therefore, it is very clear that our ancient ancestors had high technology that has astonished the scientific world today because it was higher and way beyond what science tells us our ancestors could achieve. We are told that we live in the most advanced era of human history, yet we stand before these monuments as toddlers, as nothing, as ants beyond an elephant. You can't go into the nose, maybe. We assume that our ancestors had help from elsewhere, but what if the only thing that they had was that they understood that they were causality engineers? Do you understand that? If you do, well done and great for you. But remember that it is a rigorous, very hard process to engage alone, because the educational system that we have today has failed us. It does not teach us the art. It actively suppresses us from our intent and fragments our consciousness, and we remain unengineered even if we have got a PhD in engineering, because you are not a causality engineer. Very few causality engineers are here on the earth. It's time to stop wondering how our ancestors did it, how they were able to be causality engineers, because we've got the information. We can share that information with you if you desire it. You can visit our website or send us an email, because till we meet again, remember, this civilization that we are living in is entropic. It will give you rewards, but it will not lead you out of its fate. Never. No religion, no spirituality can teach you causality engineering if it does not indicate that you are a raw biomachine who has to interface with some consciousness and auto-generate some consciousness that will have escape velocity from this cosmos or any other cosmos. There's more here. Really. I'm your manager Topi, priest Rabbi LM Dubisu Kunigani Mjakanja, member of Marifado Family Network, saying thank you very much for watching, for liking, subscribe, comment, and share this video to as many people as possible. Amen.